Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. She's laughing.
I'm still waiting for him to trick me. I'm in trick ready mode.
Yeah, she is. So I was about to start the video with the mic in her hand, and she's like handing off to me. No, you gotta start. You gotta start. You gotta start.
You know, I have such stage fright. I freeze. I can't help it, but either laugh or try to remember what to say. I don't know.
Well, you've done hundreds of videos with me by now. Maybe we've done over 1,000 together. I know I've done over 3,000.
Yeah, it is. The edge is wearing off as far as the nervousness goes. It's taken some time, but it's working.
So, we're going to cover a wide variety of things on this one. Look at that. Look at those temps. Oh my God, it's brutal out. And so we had just a couple sessions today going late, but one of them was with one of our dear family members. Hello, Laura. Hey. And she's up in Canada, and she was saying you can't even walk out there. You can't walk out there because like your nose will freeze in moments with like wind chills that are like 41 below.
Yeah, burr.
Yeah, brutal, brutal. And you can see how far down this is dropping. Look at those temps in Texas, negative 18. These are wind chills. It's incredible. This is a deep one. You can get them this deep, but they've been few and far between for this type of intensity. And it's showing too, as we're going to see. One thing I wanted to bring up, when we look at Ephesians 6:12, and again, there is some knowledge. There are hidden gems in the Bible. A lot of it has been revised, edited, and redacted, as we've said before. But this one, Ephesians 6:12, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers. Okay, wait a minute. So, okay, flesh and blood's not the rulers of this world? Interesting. Yeah, hey, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth agree with this.
Yep, they sure do, right here in our own Ephesians.
And this is what, I've been trying to get across to so many of our family members, people that we love, and they'll still whine about, this political person or that political person, but they are pawns in the bigger struggle going on here. So our struggle is not against flesh and blood, even though these powers that be use flesh and blood, obviously to control us, beings in flesh and blood, but they're overshadowed, overruled, even just out and out possessed at times. Okay, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this world's darkness, and against the spiritual forces of evil, where? In the heavenly realms. What?
That almost sounds like doublespeak.
Sort of. No, but you remember what we got. If we look at the law of one, where are most of the DRACO? Well, they're not in 3D. They're actually in 4D and can actually be up in 5D as well. Yeah. And then when you've talked about the dragon, the A intelligence, the black goo, that extends upwards. And you had shared that with us.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it extends upwards. It works together. It's very symbiotic and getting more and more so.
Exactly. So this is really interesting. And so why am I doing this after we're talking wind chills? Because everything's interrelated here. There's a lot going on here. And what's happening now, well, we've talked about the big squeeze going on. The big squeeze is going on so many different ways. We just have finished a complete year of a lockdown. And what it's seen is basically, well, the billionaires have increased their wealth tremendously. I mean, this was a banner year for billionaires, right?
And they don't have to worry about their heat at all.
No, they don't care. They could take what they're saying here. And by the way, there's an energy emergency going on. Texas power provider warns of rotating outages in negative 18-degree wind chills. That's not good. As the cold weather tests the limit of the grid. And, if we just use our mind a little bit and we say, why are we spending, 750 billion a year, in reality, probably $1 trillion a year on creating weapons of death and destruction? why don't we have a better grid?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a simple thing. Why are there homeless people? Why are the people starving? Why are there any dis-eases in reality? That's, again, it depends on where priorities are. And we know, that the priorities of the average person are not the same as the priorities of the upper echelon.
And the more you ask, the more you have to come to the conclusion that beings who run this world are not human.
They're not even from this world, because how could the rulership of this world be so toxic to the planet itself to the point of causing mass extinctions? It's pretty obvious. Wholesale power for delivery Sunday was trading anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000 a megawatt hour in some places. Triple the record set in some places Saturday, staggering 2,672% increase from Friday at Texas's West Hub. Average spot power prices were just shy of $1,000 per megawatt hour during peak hours Sunday morning, according to the data compiled by Bloomberg. As one Houston energy trader so eloquently explained, Texas electricity customers are about to get lubelessly, you guys get the picture, right? Now, price gouging, supply and demand, there's so much going on here. You're going to really, this is a wake-up call for Texas. You don't think of being cold in Texas. I mean, Texas could get extremes. My first trip to Texas was in February, and when I landed there, it was cold, and there was snowflakes. This was in Dallas. And then the next day, I was up on the roof of the hotel at the pool, sunning myself in 75 degrees. Texas gets extremes. It does. But what we have going on now is it's a wake-up call for what's to come for all of us. And we're going to have to make decisions. When you have so many mom-and-pop businesses, so many, small to mid-range businesses that have been wiped out, you have so many people that have to defer their mortgage. And, there is a housing crash that's coming. It feels like they pushed it back. It should have been here probably in April. And I was talking to David Devine at Adapt 2030 about a month ago. We were talking about this, and I said, if you had to put a peg on it, maybe it was about 6 weeks ago, when do you think? And he was thinking April, somewhere around the 7th to 14th. Now that's all shifting. It seems like that's getting pushed off a little bit, but they could always do this. They could just time things just whenever they want to time it for. But you're going to have to make choices. Do you want to eat? Do you want to be warm?
I know, and Mike and I were talking about this earlier, and some people, what if they need oxygen machines? They need to run that electricity. How is that going to work? Are they going to... Sorry.
Okay. We always get our throat chakras attacked. How you're going to have to make choices, but, some people, hopefully they have backup generators with plenty of fuel. There's a lot of people that are relatively well off, that are ready for anything. But the majority of people actually, better than 50%, they live paycheck to paycheck. And if those paychecks aren't coming in, or if they're sporadic, and then all of a sudden your electricity bill goes from $200 to $2,000, and, again, consolidation of energy into the hands of very, very few people is ongoing. And of course, money is a form of energy. And it's one that can be tremendously manipulated. This is going to be crazy. Spot prices are expected to hit $9,000 on Monday and Tuesday, said Brian Lavertu, a trader for Active Power Investments. Power is going to be wild through Tuesday. And it's a pretty brutal air mass for sure. And, this is part of the weakening of the magnetosphere that's ongoing and giving us these big dips. It probably will keep going on, and we caught this from BP, BP Earthwatch, you guys know. He's a really good guy, and he's in southern Mississippi. And you would think that, in the deep south, you're not going to get too much of this. But it could be happening in the future. And like we've been saying too, where do you go? You're going to have to make your choices. But as one of you guys was commenting and saying, I know on Mike's wish list for whatever house it is they end up getting, or cabin, Number one's going to be a wood-burning stove, and you're right. You're right. Wood-burning stove is a must, and then also having wood around you to burn.
Yeah, that's very, very important too.
Yeah, and so, this is a wake-up call, and it's so sad that there are these people in the world that know that there are people that are going to have to choose between staying warm or eating, and they're price gouging. This shows you just how heartless the system is. It's not the people of the world that are heartless. I think it's the system that's heartless. I think there's an awful lot of good people in this world. I've met so many strangers. I've done so many different things. There was a time when I was actually going door to door. I started out going door to door as a little kid selling seed packets when I was like 12 years old. I had a newspaper route, and I started doing that, and you get to meet people. And I've done that down in the deep South, and have met people that didn't have two nickels to rub together, but would willingly, be like, giving you produce. When you are just talking to perfect strangers, and they happen to have a garden, and they're like trying to load you up with bags of produce. There's so many nice people in this world. It's the system that is evil. And it really is evil. Let's just call it for what it is.
Oh my gosh, is it ever? And I mean, as far as people's heart chakras go, they are going to be opening up, and that's what's going to help us through these times is our heart chakras, following the heart chakra, healing ourselves, helping to heal other people, and having a lot of understanding and empathy and sympathy through these times.
So we see Texas Power Grid operator ERCOT has issued a statement warning of an energy emergency and threatening rotating outages just when residents need to power their heat on their homes. So many people are not prepared for this, especially in urban areas, and all of a sudden you're going to be buried in frigid temps. It's a recipe for total disaster. So we are experiencing record-breaking electrical demand due to the extreme cold temperatures that have gripped Texas. And so they give you some tips on how to conserve energy and all. It's sad, and I don't think there's really any reason for so many things that we see in this world in reality. If this system was benevolent, we wouldn't be running into all these things. Freezing temperatures, citywide blackouts, shut down Dallas as residents struggle to keep warm.
And that's really terrible. People really shouldn't be put in this position to struggle to keep warm.
And so, again, I don't want to keep ranting because I feel the blood pressure building as you get really irritated when you recognize and realize, the bigger picture going on. We all have a right for, having that anger, because it's not right what we see going on in this world. And silver squeeze hits London as SLV warns of limited available silver. And again, most people don't own physical silver. They own the certificates, which are just basically IOUs, like saying, okay, here's an IOU for whatever, 20 ounces of silver, But the reality is, just like money in the bank, if everybody went to take it out at the same time, it's not there. Yeah. It's just not there. So that's an illusion. And we did have one client who about 2 years ago, almost now, I think, said, and he was being benevolent with us because he's somebody that studies the financial markets and everything very well. He's got himself situated really well. He's in great shape. And he said, I could pay you, cash, or I could pay you in silver. And his take was, I think it would be a good investment for you. So, at that time, silver was at like $14 or so an ounce, and now it's at 27 and change. So it was, a good thing and a nice thing that he did, so we had a little bit of silver, which, is actually almost double what it was when he paid us in silver. So people that can, afford to lay down thousands of dollars, day trading, that's so different than what most of us can do. And it's sad, but, this is the reality of the system. How could this be right? How could they be allowed to just write out these IOUs saying that, we're going to be good for this amount when it's not even there?
I know, just so many things to go over and look at and come to the understanding that, gosh, we're kind of on our own in many, many ways.
And again, somebody in the last time we talked about it was making like we're telling people to put your life savings in silver. No, we're not, And, this is not even, I'm not really even interested in the monetary system because it disgusts me. I think it's horrible, but at the same time, we're in the system right now, so we need to be aware of the manipulation going on in the system. But I do hope that we will step outside of the system and create our own system at some point in time when we recognize, hey, this is geared to, help those that already have.
Mm-hmm. Baby steps. Got to do it in baby steps.
And you see Bitcoin hits 49,700 as institutions now own 3% of the circulating supply. Less than a week after Bitcoin soared on Tesla's announcement that Elon Musk had purchased $1.5 billion in the cryptocurrency on behalf of his company overnight, Bitcoin hit all new time high just shy of 50K, rising as high as 49,700 before reversing modestly. And again, there are those people that really, really believe in Bitcoin and in cryptocurrencies. But again, there's nothing really there. This is an agreement in the air. There's nothing really there. And it's all electronic and it's digital. It's not tangible. Maybe I'm just old-fashioned, but I see the way in the future as far as being able to be in a society that's not going to be easily manipulated, like the manipulators manipulate it now. Things are going to have to be more tangible. It's more like I'll trade you 2 dozen eggs for 6 of those tomatoes and 3 of those pears.
Right. That's the more fair way to do things on every level.
Because when you're having like direct trade like that, there's no middleman. This is what I have. That's what you have. This society is set up for the middlemen. The middlemen, the ones that just simply, manipulate, manage, and create stuff out of thin air, the bankers. They're the ones that just control the whole system and keep getting richer and richer and richer. And, when you see like who's getting involved in this and all, everything's going to be controlled by the big players. It's always going to be controlled by the big players. That's just the bottom line. It's the way things are unless we get ourselves out of this whole system. And there's a lot going on here too. And we had talked about how 75-80% of U.S. citizens, well, the knowledge of their DNA might have been snatched by the fine diningware country. And so this is an interesting one, talking about where that fine diningware country is going and the fact that they're in certain human genes and monkeys and chimps and playing around with all this stuff. It says here, has anybody not seen Planet of the Apes?
I know. I mean, what do you make of this? This is absolutely insane. It is the movie.
And this is what we know about. Now, we know that in these deep underground bases all across the country, they were in Nevada, they extend through Arizona and Utah over into New Mexico and down into California as well, down by Ridgecrest. Who knows what goes on down in there. And we've talked about this tendency of certain entities to want to mix DNA and play with DNA. And then we hear about the Watchers, et cetera, like what happens when you mix pig and monkey DNA. Some people have also talked about the prohibition about eating pork because, when you start looking at it, say hi to your cousin in some ways.
Oh, totally. I've heard about that for sure.
As far as, the biblical prohibition going into Deuteronomy where, thou shalt and thou shalt not. And then we were talking about the super soldiers and everything going on there as well. It's all so reminiscent of what we saw going on in the 1930s and the 1940s in one particular country. It's just that it's going on now on a much bigger level, if you guys know what I mean.
Yeah, I know. We really can't even mention it.
No, but it's the same old thing. It's the same old thing. When we look at these abductions, as we've talked about so many of them, and the Betty Andreasson one, I was interested in that because she was from, like 10 miles away from my home. in Connecticut when she was snatched and all. And what she saw was experimentation going on up in the ships, and people in test tubes like lab rats. This is all interconnected, and we have 5 aftershocks from the big Fukushima quake that we had the other day, that 7.3. And as it turns out, they say there might have been a leak there at the nuclear reactor, but don't worry, it's all fine. Just if you start glowing green a little bit, growing extra limbs, it's all good.
Just take a bath, nothing to see here.
And Cindy spotted immediately that it happened at 333 UTC, and she said that's like a stamp, a signature.
Yeah. That's what they like to do.
Yep. And it also triggered some blackouts, by the way. Now, I thought I would just include this because I want to be well-rounded. We started talking about the chill, and then we talked a little biblical with the Ephesians about, our struggle not being against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of the world's darkness, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. And, heavenly realms, we could look at it different ways, because if we really look at our history close, we could see UFO sightings and people coming here from the heavens looking at 3D space. But then there's also densities, different densities like 4D, 5D, etc. It's all interrelated. And here we have a list of 100 U.S. patents related to weather modification. And there's a ton of them. And I've showed this list in the past. It goes all the way back to 1891, a method of producing rainfall in 1891. And, these, you could click on them and get the actual patents. Interesting. It's very interesting. A generation of electrical fields. Interesting stuff that we have. Means for communication through a layer of ionized gases. Boy, the skies, well, they definitely are full of things a lot of times.
What I keep thinking is Westworld.
Yes, Westworld, the modern Westworld, it started out pretty good. We only watched 2 seasons, but that was enough. As we see weather modification by artificial satellite, that was back in 1999, so that was like 22 years ago almost already. Yeah, interesting. Very, very, very interesting stuff. I'll have the links for you guys. And then this is the largest mind over matter experiment in history. And this is from back in 2012. And we should talk about Lynn McTaggart again, The Field. That was a great book. What's his name? David Wolcock did the source field investigation shortly after. Greg Braden did one on The Field as well. All good books. Lynn McTaggart's came out first, showing that we're all interconnected in this web, a true web. And, not dissimilar in some ways to the World Wide Web, in that, it's information transferring from one to another invisibly. But there is a universal mind, and we can tap into it, and we can change our reality. Now, when we start getting more people coming on board, more and more and more, then we're getting more and more powerful. So they did an experiment, and it involved 400 conference attendees in London sending intentions to increase the light emissions of a geranium leaf located in the University of Arizona. The results were also highly significant and could be observed by special photography, Carolyn photography. You could actually see it. They have measured the amount of biophotons by Qigong masters, which is so many times more than an average person can do. And this is why remote healing works. And, we have worked on thousands of people all across the world, from Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, Africa, Europe, South America, every continent besides Antarctica. We haven't worked on any of the giants down there yet, or any of the secret bases down there, people on the secret bases. But it's just so wild when you could be talking to somebody in Singapore and saying, can you feel the energy? Oh, yeah, I could feel it.
Most definitely. And it just kind of goes to show when you're working with energy, you don't really know where one energetic being starts and the other stops. There really is no start and stop. It's just all kind of blended together like one, a little bit like, water and water drops. It's really cool.
Well, we understand now quantum entanglement. And if there was a Big Bang, which, is a debatable thing, all the energy of everything, all the mass would come down into just such a small little, size that at some point in time, everything was intertangled, and it still is. And anyway, this is the way consciousness is, and they understood this in the East, and they understand this in the Western mystery traditions as well. So they did another experiment after that with more people, and you see the results were civilian casualties dropped to an average of 37% after their September intention. Attacks with explosive devices. Now, this is an area where there was war going on and the like we have in the Middle East, always. So there was a lot of positive development here. Attacks with explosive devices dropped 16% after our intention compared to the average attack rate for 2+ years before. Overall enemy attacks dropped 12% from October to December 2011 compared to levels in 2010. Attacks in the Southwest dropped overall by 29% over the year before and drastically dropped by 790% in September. Attacks across the whole of Afghanistan for the whole of 2011 were 9% lower than they were in 2010. So, what can we do with our intent? Well, let's put our intent out there and let's see if we could manifest some good weather, manifest some lessening of all the earth changes that are going on all across the globe. Let's see the earth, settle down. Let's see the darkness that has been, ruling this globe be removed. Let people wake up and realize the bigger picture of what's going on. May people awaken to exactly what's going on in this world.
Very, very important. And I know we've done this before on the channel, asked you guys to put your intention into peaceful outcomes. And I strongly believe, especially after looking at this study, that we've done quite a lot of really good work.
Yeah, most definitely. And if you guys are Judeo-Christian and you feel like it, you could just simply put the intention that you're seeing Raphael, the Archangel Raphael in the east, and then look to the south and see Archangel Michael in the south. Look behind you and to the west and see Archangel Gabriel or Gabriel, and then look to the north and see Archangel Uriel. And just envision these archangels taking the dark powers that have been in control and removing them and sending them into the light. And Cindy's going to do a ding for us, and we'll send that intention out there. And now if you're not, you could envision whatever you want to envision. You can envision Buddha, Kuan Yin, any sort of positive thing. Just envision pure light coming down onto the earth and just enveloping the earth. And then you might want to make that pure crystalline light turn violet, because violet's a very high vibration, and it wouldn't be something that would be pleasant to really, really dark entities.
Thank you so much for everything you guys do. God bless and namaste.
As always, guys, may you be blessed with abundant love, light, peace, and happiness. May any dark entities that are around you be pushed away from you and yours and your family. May you guys be lifted up into the light, and may you have lives of abundance and peace. God bless and namaste.